Welcome to the Draft Board Hockey Show. I'm Mark. This is what episode are we, Linc? Do we even know anymore?
I've lost count. There's been so many.
But anyways, obviously we got a special guest again. The prospect Dan is in the house. Welcome to the show, Anthony.
Thanks for having me again.
And of course, my boy Linc from New Wave Hockey. He's back in the USA. Good to be home.
Oh yeah. This time I was on a plane home from Europe at this time yesterday. So I'm a little jet lagged, feeling it. But videos should be getting pumped out soon. We're getting them into production. We're almost a month away from the draft. I'm super excited to be home.
Yes. So yeah, today's episode, we're going to talk a little hockey news, some, CHL playoff stuff. And obviously we're going to talk about a prospect. Today's special prospect is Logan Hensler. So yeah, we're gonna dig into his game and see what makes him one of the top prospects for the 2025 NHL draft. All right, boys. So first things first, hockey news. I wanted to begin this episode by saying that our boy Caleb Desnoyers. I just told the prospect Don how to pronounce his name properly. He's been on absolute tear in the Q. The Moncton Wildcats moving on to the Mem Cup, and he led his team in points. 30 points the boy put up. He was second in the Q in playoff points, but still draft eligible player. He's a 2007 born prospect, and he's leading the team. What do you guys think? I've been pumping Caleb for a long time now. What do you guys think?
I'll leave it to the Don because I have my own thoughts that align with Mark. So I mean, I've been pumping his tires for a while too.
Let's hear you pronounce his name there, prospect Don.
Desnoyers.
Perfect.
Yes. All right. I'm a big fan of him. It took me a little while to get into it, but after rewatching his tape, seeing him at international play as well, like he's not just a product of the Q. You can tell right off the bat. He's a very good defensive forward, and then he's putting up incredible point totals. He is clutch. Everybody that I've talked to has been telling me he's clutch. And then this playoff performance where he's tallied 30 points. I can't even believe that. He has put like Moncton on his back, and it's going to be awesome to see him at the Mem Cup. I think that he could have a Jonathan Huberdeau type of, tournament where he can jump up to that third pick for the Blackhawks. I think that would be a really good fit with Connor Bedard. I think that the way that we're seeing the rise of Desnoyers and the fall of Porter Martone is kind of interesting, but I think that it could align for the Blackhawks to take him at 3 or 4. So I think Desnoyers is a fantastic player, and I'm interested to see what Leak says.
I mean, I've been saying it all season. I think he's the third best center in this draft, and we're counting Michael Meese as a center as well. I think he's been absolutely excellent. He's been tearing up the entire year. I think he's been clearly a top 10 pick from the moment that the puck dropped early in this season. He's really just been proving himself. He's become an incredible goal scorer, a really awesome playmaker. And I think he was the only player on his team with 30 points in the postseason, which is an absurd number in 19 games. I think he joins a list of draft year players from the QMJHL who have scored 30 points in their draft year playoff season. That's like Nathan McKinnon, Sidney Crosby. We're looking at Jonathan Drouin as well. Jonathan Huberdeau, as you said, went third overall. So there's a lot of exciting forwards that you can compare him to and kind of see how he is. And I really think that that's just kind of solidified himself as the number 4 prospect in this entire draft. Some people think that he's a bit higher than that, but I really, really like him. He's really at the top of that second tier player, I think, and I really love Caleb Desnoyers.
Yeah. Okay. So you know what? We actually, in terms of mocks, there's a lot of mocks out there right now, and Linc had brought up the one from the Athletic actually, and it is a alternating mock between Corey Pronman and Scott Wheeler. So you want to bring that up? Do you have it with you?
Yeah.
All right. So according to the Athletic and Pronman and Wheeler, Desnoyers falls to that number 4 spot to the newly named Utah Mammoth. And some interesting takes, I think, after keep on rolling it there.
Yeah, that seems all pretty normal. Porter Martone to 8 is a little scary. Martin, a bit of a reach. This is where I think Carter Bear at 11 is a little bit early, but that's kind of, this is where the hot takes start. There's just some guys that fall that I'm not really expecting. Like I'll show here back at 17. This surprised me here. Jackson Smith at 17. Tristan Carbonell a little bit low at 16. Then Malcolm Spence over at 22. And then the boy we're talking about today, the ever criminally underrated Logan Hensler.
Hey, listen,
25.
If Logan Hensler falls to the Flyers at 27, like
I'm jumping for joy. I really am.
So here's the thing: if you look at that mock and you got Montreal taking, they draft 16 and 17 here, and they got Justin Carbonneau at 16, which I can understand. But they went with Jackson Smith at 17. I don't see that because they're loaded on the left side. They need right shot D, and I could see a Logan Hensler going here at number 17 if he slides that much. To be honest with you, that's more. Could you imagine we'll talk about Logan Hensler in a minute, but I mean Montreal landing a right shot, absolutely fantastic mobile big D like that at 17. Like you get,
I refuse to believe that that's a possibility. I think if he's there at 16, if 15 picks go by and Logan Hensler is not picked up, he will be a Montreal Canadian. There's no doubt about it. I think it's just a fit like this, like a glove. It would be fantastic for them. I would be kind of mad once again if the perfect player for Montreal falls right into their lap. Like it's taking candy from a baby. So we'll see. I would love Logan Hensler to fall to the Flyers. That's obviously not going to happen.
What? Fingers crossed that would happen. The other thing with Montreal landing Logan Hensler is that they got a fellow NTDP player there. Huh?
They got a couple.
Yeah, a couple.
I might start talking smack about Logan Hensler just to tank his draft stock, but I don't have that. I don't have that power. I would love him on the Flyers. I really do. So I think we're going to get into it, but I think him going to Montreal would be exactly the type of player they're looking for.
Carter Bear at 11. If you saw the Cam Robinson tweets and my article yesterday, it said that he is skating. I talked to Carter Bear, and it seems like he's going to be coming back and working out for some of the summer events. So it's kind of crazy. It was a partial tear. And it wasn't full. And I think that there was a little bit of noise surrounding the injury. Like there was nothing to come out of it, but we got great news on the Carter Bear front. So I think that it's going to help increase his draft stock for sure. I think he was trending to be a top 10 player. And then after the injury, it was like trending down to 16 or so out of the lottery. But at 11 or 12 or 13, I think that it's still a little high for Carter Bear, especially with the injury. But if you're trying to take that upside, I think Canadians, the Habs would be perfect fit for Carter Bear because they have 2 picks right there, or maybe the Penguins because they do have 11 and 12 possibly with the Rangers. So that it could be a fit. And then Frondell over Haggins and Desnoyers is kind of interesting to me because I'm very high on Haggins, but you have 4 straight centers, actually 5 straight centers. No, 6 straight centers off the board from 2 to 7. So that's kind of interesting.
I have my opinions on whether or not Frondell is a center. So I think it would fit once again in I projected him to go to Columbus in our last mock draft, as many of you saw on the Prospect Dawn. But yeah, I think Frondell is like one of the ways I think there would probably be leaning. People are hoping for guys like Martone, Hagens. I would love Hagens to go 3. That would be awesome. But back to Carter Bear. Personally, for me, it's a little bit too rich for my blood. But it's good to see that he's skating again. Coming back from the Achilles injury, obviously there's a ton of speculation. There's a ton of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen with this injury? So obviously it's good to see that he's up and going again. Hopefully that increases his draft stock from what it would have been if he was not showing this progress. But at 11 is a little bit too high for me. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think a lot of NHL teams will be a little bit standoffish. And I think that, due diligence, they're going to check him out. He's going to get, evaluated and, probably have some, doctors check him out and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens. I mean, you never know. Every draft, there's players that go high. And my brother and I were having this conversation last night that, you look at guys like, Colby Barlow and, players of that kind of makeup. NHL teams do like, NHL ready players. And there are a couple in this draft and players that, are going to probably play 10 years. They might be middle six, bottom six kind of guys. In my opinion, though, and I've said this all along, if you're in the first round and you're a high first round pick, I'm swinging for the fences if I'm a GM. Yeah. Like I'm taking a chance at, like how does Demidov or Mishkov drop, to 5-6 kind of spots, especially, considering the talent that's there and the potential that you could get out of a player like that. So I think it depends on where a team lands. And if a player's coming up, you take that swing for a potential high ceiling, or, do you play the safe bet at a middle six kind of player? So, I mean, it all depends on what the team's looking for sure.
Yeah, that's really well said. Swing it for the fences if you're even in the top 16. I just feel like it's a no-brainer. When the Blackhawks didn't take Demidov, I was obviously very upset. But like Michkov fell to the Flyers. Good for you guys. That was awesome. I'm a huge Michkov guy. I think he's an offensive genius, in my opinion. Just needs some playmaking that reads his game at the high level too. Like you just got to take best player available with the upside case. If obviously if you're taking just a 6'5" guy for no reason that has just insane upside but no floor, I mean, I could see that. Like with somebody like, I mean, Simon Wang.
I feel like you're highlighting
not Carter McKee.
No, I thought you were going to go after Roger McQueen there. I was like, whoa, that's a little bit specific.
I like no. I actually do like Roger McQueen. I think the back injury, he's falling because of Caden Lindstrom last year, which doesn't, it kind of hurts his stock. If Caden Lindstrom came out a year after Roger McQueen, I think it would be like flip-flopped and a little different there. Roger McQueen just has some incredible upside and floor. I think he could easily be a third line center floor-wise.
Oh, I just did a video on Roger McQueen, and you know what? I changed my mind. Before that beginning of the season, I thought that a little too much hype because of his first game, 4 goals. He came out pumping, and then he kind of slowed down a little bit after that first game. But watching his tape and into the playoffs and stuff like that, I'm pretty impressed with his overall game. I have to admit, I like his game. The back concern is of relevance. However, there's some nice upside there for that kid. And you got to remember, he's only 18 years old and he's still growing into his body, 6'5", 200 pounds, but he doesn't have that man strength yet. He doesn't have that, complete balance that you need and stuff like that. A little bit more training. This kid could be a fantastic steal of this draft, especially if he drops out of the top 10. I said, if this kid drops out of the top 10, forget about it. I'm running up to to the phone, I guess, because it's not.
Yeah.
I hope they go back. We'll see. So
they're supposed to in 2026. Supposedly.
Okay, good.
And that'd be smart. That would be.
This is also like a very loud disclaimer. Rumor. So yeah.
We'll see what happens. All right. Anything else in terms of news? Well, Gavin McKenna, the Mem Cup is shaping up to be pretty interesting. You got
I'm excited.
The Medicine Hat Tigers are moving on, and that's going to be fun to see McKenna. Now, the other thing is the London Knights, just an absolute wagon. They're always, they're always in contention.
Can I interject and ask who you guys are rooting for? Because I know. Mark lives in Ontario, so I like thinking maybe London Knights, but I could also see you as being a Knights hater. So me personally, I'm rooting for Moncton, with probably Medhat too. So we'll see. I'm just against Rimouski and London at the moment. All love to Rimouski fans. Love you guys. Just again, I think Medhat versus Moncton in the final would be cinema. So that's where I'm at right now.
Prospect Don, who do you like?
Moncton. I want to see how Desnoyers, performs with outside of the queue, even though I said internationally he's been great too. I think it's just another step. Everybody always talks bad about the queue. Yep. I would like to see them win because, and I want to see, I also think Gavin McKenna is an NHLer. I want to make a hot take here. He is an NHLer based on the scouting I've done. So yeah, for sure.
Very hot take there. Spicy.
Yeah, being in Ontario and Windsor, I can't cheer for London. Sorry, boys. However,
I'm not offended.
We're gonna go with Moncton. I want to see Moncton just because of the draft and Desnoyers. Yeah. You know what? Like you guys said, I just want to see, silence the doubters because everyone's saying, oh, he's a product of the queue. You know what I mean? But the queue has won a bunch of Mem Cups in the last few years. If you go look at their track record, and the thing is that Moncton specifically is led by this draft eligible player. So you know what? If he comes into the Mem Cup and does really well, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, maybe we should move this kid up the draft ranking. But if he flops, then it's going to be like, oh, see, he couldn't handle the pace against the O and the dub. So it's going to be interesting. I'm rooting for Moncton and Desnoyers to put up some nice games in the Mem Cup for sure, though.
I think there are also some very interesting prospects for Moncton as well. Like Juraj Pekarsik has been a World Juniors fan. I've been a fan of Juraj Pekarsik when it comes to the Slovakian team. He really shined this year. Julius Sumpf, another guy who has he's got some oomph to his game. Pun very intended, trust me. But yeah, there's a lot of other interesting prospects. Notably, the Flyers have two guys on the London Knights, Denver Barkey and Oliver Bonk. So that's they do well. I'm cool with that.
We're having fun. We're having fun.
We're having a good time. So
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
And then there was one more news, kind of news thing. I was talking to Mark about this before we got on, but FanDuel dropped their odds for the Blackhawks' 3rd overall pick, and I thought this was just really interesting. James Haggins is a minus 120 to go 3rd overall, and then Porter Martone is plus 1,500, and Kayshawn Atchison is, I think, plus 1,600, which makes zero sense to me.
I'll throw a parlay on that. I'll throw $1. Just
yeah.
Blackhawks fans would be mad.
I don't think the Blackhawks are going to repeat that.
No,
there's no chance. All right, boys. So let's move on. We're going to talk about Logan Hensler from the Wisconsin in the NCAA. Now, this is a player that I have the privilege to watch for the last 3 years. NTDP U17, NTDP U18, and Wisconsin. I got to catch a game this year. So yeah, he's one of my favorites. I battle for him a lot when it comes to McKean's hockey. And yeah, I don't know. Let's hear what you guys have to say. Wait, first things first, but I always show this clip. This is the first clip I show, and this is against University of Michigan. He absolutely just dangles this guy and roofs it. And you saw glimpses of that with the NTDP, and he was a little bit more aggressive, I guess you could say, with the puck when he was with the NTDP. But I think that coming to Wisconsin and the NCAA, I think that they were kind of trying to, firm up his defensive play. And they did a really good job with that. And, you got to remember, this is a kid that played for the World Juniors U20 team as a draft eligible player. And that's an impressive team, right? Gold medal winning team. So yeah, I like Hensler's game a lot. I think that he's going to go higher than he's in the top 16 for sure for me. I can't see him falling out of that. People have to remember the NHL, they covet right-handed mobile D, and he's a right-handed mobile D.
I could go as far to say that I could see him going in the top 10 because of just how much right-handed defensemen are valued. There is definitely a general manager that's looking at Logan Hensler's tape the way I am and kind of oogling and just like going ooh and ah at everything that you see. The way that they kind of took the approach for Logan Hensler this year was it was different. It was not what I was expecting with him, because he came out of the USNTDP as a unique 6'2" right-handed shot, more of an offensive defenseman. There were games last year which I really, really loved, and there were some games that I really, really didn't love because, again, the defense really was not as prominent. It was not as relied upon as it is now. There were games where I thought Dakota Rayon Mullen was the better defenseman among the two from last year. But this year, given the role that he was expected to play, he progressed every single step of the way. If you watch his last 15 games, you will see a complete shift from where he was at the beginning of the year in terms of just how he sets up, in terms of how he positions himself on the rush, in the middle of the ice, in the defensive zone. He has completely changed his game. I would call him super, super steady. He is just a very solid player. Like, watch here, he will get the puck in neutral ice and wheel it around, and his skating game has always been there. He's been I would go as far to say he's one of the best skating defensemen in this entire draft. If not the best, one of the best skaters in the entire draft. He really shows off a lot. And he can wheel, he can be creative. He shows that off very presently, but most of his game is going to be defense and stopping the rush and being in positions where he needs to be. And that off-puck game is where he shines. Again, he didn't get the points that he needed this year. Obviously, he had a bit of an adjustment period, just like James Higgins, but looking at the value that you can get from there, the potential is absolutely there, and the steadiness that you would want out of a defenseman, there, absolutely there. Before the draft lottery, the Islanders were picking back, and I had them penciled in to take Logan Hensler around their pick. And now that they're taking Matthew Schaefer, I mean, hey, it's whatever. But he is the defenseman that a lot of teams are going to covet this time around. It bothers me that Wheeler and Proman had him slip all the way to 25.
Ooh.
It really did. I'm sorry. So,
well, for the Flyers, it's really great. And his biggest strength that he said was his skating. Like 2 years out, he said that his player comp was like Luke Hughes and Jake Sanderson, and now like today he said it's Jake Sanderson. Like
I like that,
the right-handed Jake Sanderson.
Yeah,
and the thing is,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I would say like I would go as far like Jake Sanderson's a great comparison. I would say like really like in the middle if we want to like go a little bit away from a star player. I have him closer to like a Vince Dunn, like Cam Fowler type player. Really great skater. Great on both ends of the ice. I think he's going to transform into like one of those two guys. But Jake Sanderson is a perfect guy to try to model yourself after. I would say when you told me that like a couple of weeks ago, I was like, oh man, that gets me going.
Oh, the thing about Logan Hensler is like players in the first round, he's going to be the highest NCAA player to go other than James Haggins. And a lot of players are going to take that jump, but Logan Hensler took the jump a year too early, in my opinion, just because of like, it was kind of like a Kevin Korchinski going to the NHL instead of the WHL. I mean, he didn't really have a choice based on the options that he had, but going to Wisconsin, being the youngest player on his team, having to adjust to the NCAA playing against men was very tough. But the thing is, he nearly had the same point totals that he had at the USHL from last year. He played well in the World Junior Championship, but he's a player that can have more offensive upside and playmaking than we've seen this year. If he continues to develop his game, then, I mean, you already see the defense. I think they're getting a very good two-way defenseman that is going to come in as your top four pair, probably on your second pair, and just be like a very solid, steady, and give you that offensive upside.
Yeah, you know what? So that clip there, he pinned the guy against the wall, and then he got the D zone exit. You know what? The thing with Logan Hensler, I think it's gonna depend on how he progresses in terms of where he lands and how they want to develop him. Now, this could be a player, like you said, that could add some offensive touch to the team that he goes, or he could be a defensive. He could be a person that they rely on defensively. So you got some options with a player like Logan Hensler, and I think that he's going to be a true NHL defenseman. In terms of point production and whatnot, I think it all depends on the team that he goes to and how they see him in the future with their program. So at the end of the day, though, you can't replace a smooth skating 6'2", 200-pound defenseman like that. Like those don't grow on tree too often.
No, I like literally I'll like quote myself on my own blog. It's just like sometimes you just need a steady two-way defenseman to solve all your problems, and he's a right shot. And he's right there for the taking. I really don't see how this is not like a really just like easy pick in the mid like tens. Like this really just it's a no-brainer for me. I honestly there are certain teams that need defense. There are certain teams that need defense from pick 4 with the Mammoth. I don't know if they're going to go with Hensler at 4. I would love that. Oh my gosh, I'd be like, let's go. But I really think you will get some stability from him. You will get a lot of years out of this guy. Obviously, I think there's going to be a year or two in college, maybe a year in college, a year in the AHL. But the way that you're going to develop this guy, he's going to be ready, and he's going to be a very productive player for any team that drafts him. I really am high on Logan Hensler.
Yeah, he's kind of like if he would have taken the University of Minnesota path, and he's a Minnesota kid, that's why I bring it up. He could have been
Woodbury.
Yeah, in my opinion, he could have had like a Sam Renzel type of arc, just because like I feel like they are very similar players coming out, very young, but has that offensive upside that they haven't really tapped into. And then you're seeing what Sam Renzel has played with, just a right-handed defenseman, always go higher in the draft. We say that time and time again, but one of the Bunker Boys, I think Rocco, told me that every draft there's 2 defensemen taken in the top 10 for like the last 15 years.
Always.
So always. So at 8 or 9 with Seattle, probably not 9, but with Seattle, like we keep putting Mertka at 8. I could totally see Logan Hensler going here. I mean, it's pick your poison, but I think Logan Hensler just has so much upside that is so untapped, and he already has that year in the NCAA under his belt with players like Porter Martone, Michael Misa, maybe with Luke Misa at Penn State. They're going to go to the NCAA, so it's already packed into his development.
So that's it for Logan Hensler. And you know what that means? It means it's time for some follower question. Let's go, boys. Let's go. All right. Linc, what do we got for our first question here?
So the first one, on reference to a great movie, Lebowski 55 says, if the Blackhawks draft Antoine Frondell 3rd overall, he better turn to Marian Hossa because you can't draft a player that high and he can't just be a nice complimentary player. He has to be a cornerstone. Hate to break it to you, it's not that kind of draft. It's a little bit more of a weaker draft. I don't think you're getting a cornerstone outside of the top 2, but I think the Blackhawks are in a really good position where they can kind of just take the best available that aren't Schaefer and Misa. If you believe that that's Frondell, that's good for you. I think the Blackhawks are totally going to believe that's Frondell because of, I guess, size and goal scoring, but it could be Higgins, could be Desnoyers, could be Martone. You never know. I don't think any of them are going to be like a cornerstone. Maybe Higgins, maybe Desnoyers, because I have them 3 and 4. But we'll see. I'm not completely sold on the fact that Frondell is a cornerstone type player, but I think he's going to be a very good complementary player with Connor Bedard, and that's kind of what you need at 3rd overall. So I could be completely talking out of left field here, but what do you guys think?
Well, for the Blackhawks, if we get Marian Hossa with the 3rd pick, it would be incredible. Marian Hossa is one of the most underrated players we've seen in a very long time. I think he was overshadowed by that Blackhawks dynasty where you had Patrick Sharp as your 5th or 6th best player and Marian Hossa is your probably 4th. That probably won't happen with this kind of dynasty that the Blackhawks hopefully have. If you're me, because I really want that to happen. But there are some players with tremendous upside that could be cornerstones, but there's just no one on paper that's popping out as a prospect. If Desnoyers comes out there and has an incredible Mem Cup and then just steals the show and everybody wants him to go at the Blackhawks, it's plus 1,200 on FanDuel right now, not sponsored. I think it would be really great just for the Blackhawks to take him because it would pair up with Connor Bedard. I think you need to get Bedard a line mate. Obviously, James Haggins is probably the player here that has the highest floor upside ratio in the top 3 other than Schaefer and Misa because Martone is such a bad skater in people's eyes, or the first 3 strides are bad. So Frondell might not be a bad option because, like Mark on his video, you should definitely check out Anton Frondell's video. It's one of my favorite ones this whole cycle, where he just says toe drag release. I love that. Like I say, that's my alarm now. I just feel that Frondell is one of those players that does have higher floor, like a top 6 center at least. If he's a top line center, or a winger, because he's not going to overtake Bedard there. That if he turns into a Marian Hossa type of comp, then it would be incredible.
Yeah, and the prospect, Don and I had that conversation before we started recording, in that, after the top 2, there's a tier below that. So then it all depends on what a team's looking for, who they think is going to pair up the best with Bedard in Chicago, obviously, like I'm saying. So, it could go like any one of Frondell, Desnoyers, even O'Brien could sneak up there if they think that he's that setup guy that, is what's needed in Chicago. There's a handful of players that could potentially land in that 3rd overall spot. So there's no denying that is open for any kind of possibility.
Yeah, and Blackhawks went to every Jake O'Brien game because you had 2 Lardis and Vanacker, who Lardis was the best player on our entire prospect pool. Basically.
That's a good memory right there. I'm thinking about that like, oh, that's interesting. That's very interesting. That's a better shot for James Higgins to fall to 6, but I love that. All right, next question here, coming from Pat's coach Bob. Chances the Bruins trade with the Utah Mammoth, so the Boston Bruins can get their top C, and the Utah Hockey Club can trade back and get their picks and a top D. I like this. I really do. I honestly think that's a possibility. Because the Bruins are at 7 and hockey clubs at 4. I'm not entirely sure that they thought they were going to be here at 4. Obviously, they moved up 10 slots. So that's excellent for Utah. But I think they could totally reach for a defenseman. I don't even know. I think this is a very intriguing thing. But what kind of a package would they have to move to get up 3 spots for the Bruins? They traded a lot of their assets, and they kind of need that. I don't know. Are they full rebuild mode? I'm really puzzled about this question. So, what do you guys think? Are they going to trade up to 4?
I don't see it happening. Like you said, what can you package with that number 7? And the thing is that
Fraser Minton, maybe
Dean Letourneau.
Yeah, like
the Dean Pot. That's my boy.
Utah, like you said, Utah is probably in Shaka Khan that they landed 4th overall. So I'm assuming that they might be scrambling and say, you know what, I think that second tier of players falls right in their wheelhouse. And I think that they might just say, you know what, let's take a shot. And there are some big kids in this draft too, right? You got the Frondels, the Desnoyers, the Martones. You got 3 kids right there that could potentially fall to them. And it's right in Utah's wheelhouse. They want big, they want high upside. And I think that they might say, you know what, we landed at 4 for a reason. Let's stick with it. Unless, some team blows their mind. Like the Flyers have a couple of first rounders. Montreal has a couple of first rounders. Who's the other? There's a couple other teams that have a couple. So, I don't know that, but I think that they stick with that 4th overall. And, but it'd be pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, I think it would be really interesting because, like me and Mark talked about before, there's a clear drop off from. I think you could get the same players from 3 to 7. So the Habs have a lot of ammo. They have like pick 16, 17, and then 3 third-round picks. I think that we could see them trying to shoot up in the draft too, just if they want to try to pick a player. But with Utah, I think that we have the same tier of players from like 3 to 7 to 8. So if you wanted to move back and try to pick something up, just I think like the Blackhawks too, like the Sabres are somebody that they want to get rid of JJ Peterka, or not get rid of, but there's rumors surrounding there. If the Blackhawks want JJ Peterka and try to go to 9 for 3 and some assets, I think that would be a phenomenal play. Just the Utah Hockey Club can also, or Mammoth, they can also do that. Yeah.
I think Utah is in a unique position where I think they're a year away from playoff contention. I think they're going to be in the playoffs next year. They are very strong. I think they're really, really close. This is a year where they can greatly benefit. And I think that starts from they're in a prime position. They're at pick 4. They can trade this pick. They're absolutely going to have that phone. They're going to be listening to every single phone call. If someone gives them a ridiculous offer, they're going to take it. Especially if it's a guy like JJ Peterka. If Buffalo is stupid enough to trade away JJ Peterka to Utah, let them. Please do. I think that would be really cool for Utah. But like you said, you're getting a very similar tier of player from picks 4 till like 8 or 9. Definitely trade back. Buffalo, Boston could trade up. I really see a lot of teams that could go to 4. Utah is absolutely going to be listening to that phone. So who knows? I think Boston maybe trading up. Maybe not. Utah trading down, more of a possibility.
I think Boston is locked into Roger McQueen. I think that's just a fit. Or Brady Martin, as you guys said.
We'll see.
It's going to be interesting. Hey, this draft is going to be all over the map. Like I said, if you look at the online maps, mocks, they are like, there's not
everywhere.
One that's even close. There's not even one that's close. Like usually you'll have some that kind of line up with, 3 or 4 or 5 players in the first 10. And this one, it is like it's the Wild West. So boys, that's it for this video. Prospect Don Anthony, obviously, thanks for coming on again, my friend. We're getting back together. We're going to do a big mock with 8 online content creators, and it is going to be a blast. So probably in a couple weeks, I've already reached out to a few guys. So we'll get that together. But as usual, that's it, boys. Anything you want to say in these departing times?
I'll be uploading more frequently because I'm home.
Yes.
That's about it.
Check out my boy Linc at New Wave Hockey and the Prospect Don as well on YouTube and Twitter. Thanks for being here, boys, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.